Welcome, welcome. This is actually a really short video, like 15 minutes, I want to say. But before we get into the introduction, I do want to say I am in no shape to do a face intro video. This is usually how it works. So I record myself doing the crafts like a few weeks before this video even goes up, and then I send that all to Jen. We've talked about her before. She's great. She edits everything. She's the editor for 50 Stories as well. Then she sends it back to me, and when I'm ready to do a voiceover, I will then do a face intro video of me talking with my face and saying, "Hi, welcome to Here We Are." But no, my hair is like bleached because I had to touch it up, but then I had to go to the hospital because we had some news about my mom, and it turned out to be a little bit of an exaggeration, I guess. Not really on the doctor's part, but it wasn't what we had thought. She's not good. She's not horrible. She's somewhere in the middle. So it's just not the right day, right? And this goes up tomorrow. It's also a few hours past my bedtime. So this is what you get. I just wanted to let you know that that is why my face is not here. Anyway, welcome to my negative corner of the internet, where I talk about controversial topics that people tag me in over on TikTok or just ask me to talk about. My handle will be in the description if you want to tag me in something you see or whatever. There's certain things I obviously don't talk about, so if I don't talk about what you tag me in, then that's why. Sorry. Don't follow me, like if you know me in real life, or do. I mean, I don't really care anymore. I mostly just talk about life hacks and life coaching over there, and I'm doing like a morning nighttime habit training series on myself. The first time didn't work out so well, and I also now messed up 5 days the second take, but we'll get there eventually. For my informational videos, I did change the format to crafts because it makes it easier for me to just do a voiceover. It's also, again, easier for Jen to edit. I pretty much gift all of my crafts. This diamond painting and this one was for my neighbor. He already has it. He loved it, I think. He's super into the Constitution and stuff, so it seemed fitting. The next one is a present for my mom since it's her birthday soon, so nobody tell her. Again, she is in the hospital in the COVID unit right now, so hopefully she turns around and improves. Her birthday is March 31st. I told her not to start watching my shit, and then she ended up in the hospital. But if she does find out what it is, I'll know it was one of you. Anyway, let's get into it. This is part 3 of the school to prison pipeline. In the first video, I talked about what it is and where it started as far as it is trackable. Last week, I went into some incidents that happened as a result of the policies in place, and you can find both of those in the description below if you want to see parts 1 and 2. Today is going to be, again, a bit shorter because we're going to discuss students' mental health when it comes to zero tolerance policies, as well as the school to prison pipeline. This is important because without a heavy understanding of the different barriers that a lot of kids face, it will be difficult to think of alternative solutions that will work. Could I theoretically put this and the alternative solutions into one video? Absolutely. Am I going to do that? No, because I had this series scheduled for February. It was a 4-part series, and I just want to keep it a 4-part series. This video, though, I am going to split into 2 different sections. The first, we're going to cover what mental health disorders most allow a child to be funneled directly into the pipeline. And then the second one will cover what the pipeline does to a child's mental health. First, we have to look at the data surrounding the mental health of children. For that, we are going to turn to the CDC, or Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. I'm hoping that we are evolving to a time where a child's mental health isn't minimized with boomer sayings of just go outside. But just in case some of y'all are still around and not in a nursing home yet, mental disorders in children are real, and they cause so many issues for these kids. You need to listen to your kid, get them the help they need when they need it, and continue to understand that they are their own person, not an extension of you. They don't care how you handled things back in your day, and they don't want to be told to just suck it up. I want you to know, if you are a suck-it-up parent, you're trash, okay? And I promise you that your kids will resent you for that. Anyway, enough with the lecturing. According to the CDC, anxiety, behavior problems, depression, and ADHD are the most commonly diagnosed mental health disorders in children. About 6 million are diagnosed with ADHD, 5.8 million with anxiety, 5.5 million with behavior problems, and 2.7 million with depression. Some of these are co-occurring, meaning they can happen at the same time. So a child can have depression and anxiety at the same time. It's not like one or the other. For this video, we're going to ignore the fact that it has been proven that schools and the modern education system actually cause anxiety and depression. 1 in 6 children between 2 to 8 years of age have a mental, behavioral, or developmental disorder. Given that every year there are about 3.3 million out-of-school suspensions in the United States, it's safe to say that at least a handful of those kids are the 1 in 6 that have a mental disorder. One thing that I do also want to say, because there are people out there still that are like, oh, mental disorders aren't real, and kids especially, what does the kid have to be worried about? No. ADHD is actually not being overdiagnosed. It's not being incorrectly diagnosed. Now, sometimes does ADHD and ODD some kind of look the same to the point where maybe one gets diagnosed instead of the other and then later on they retract that? Yeah, for sure. However, when it comes to things like that, it's not just like, oh, the kid won't sit down. There are several markers that you have to hit before you get diagnosed with ADHD. I personally, as an adult, have it's like a yearly test where they ask you questions and whatever, you get this packet, and that test to see if you're hitting these markers, X, Y, and Z, whatever, then you get your, prescription for the year. Now, with that in mind, I don't understand this whole, everything is overdiagnosed. That's not the case. Things are changing. Media has changed. CoComelon just got called out for acting as a stimulant in children. So, yeah, the moral of that story is, please stop being dismissive of things just because you don't understand them. So how do these things play into the pipeline? And is this just an excuse for bad behavior? The answers to those questions are, I'm about to tell you, and no, obviously. The thing is, while so many of us are out here asking not for leniency, but alternative approaches, so many of you, I use you to mean, I'm just going to say it, particularly far-right leaning people, I don't think they watch my stuff because they see a pink-haired tattooed woman and already are not interested in what I have to say. But I'm just going to say you to mean far-right leaning individuals. Y'all think that we're just asking for all behaviors to be excused and throwing the term safe space in our faces as though that means anything. Having a disorder is not an excuse for behavior, but it is a reason to offer an alternative solution. A child with depression isn't going to respond to an out-of-school suspension the same way as a child who doesn't have depression or anxiety. A child with a behavior disorder is already anticipating a severe and punitive punishment for their actions, so an expected result only furthers the misbehavior. Since the entire point of zero-tolerance policies is to get rid of bad behavior, I use that very loosely, in school through these baseline punishments, human nature and these disorders aren't considered when handing out punishments. And this isn't just me or some liberal agenda talking. There are states that have already started considering mental health programs instead of the zero-tolerance punishments. Consider also, how do you feel when you get up in the morning and you have to rush out the door? Probably stressed, a little anxious, a little, worried that you forgot something, probably a little peeved if your alarm didn't go off. And as much as we adults love to think that we have it all together, I've worked with some assholes that probably needed to just stay home and take a nap. And I'm sure that I've been that asshole in a lot of situations. But you expect your kids to get up, get rushed to school early as fuck, and be on their best behavior all day? No. No, thank you. Next. I'm not sure how far over I'm going at this point. We got 4 minutes left. Usually my talking speed's 3,000 words per 20 minutes if I talk not my regular speed. So anyway, this next part. What does the pipeline do to children's mental health? For lack of a better term, it fucks them up. The school-to-prison pipeline is 1,000% a public health crisis. Zero-tolerance policies and the punishments within them lead to things like PTSD, anxiety, and depression, or worsened cases of those in children who already present with those disorders. These are all outlined by Caitlin Todd in her thesis that she submitted in 2019. I will put that in the description. I definitely recommend that you check out anything that I put in the description because it's, rather than me regurgitating, there we go, that's the word, it to you, you can read it on your own and come to your own conclusions. The one thing you have to remember, though, is that the punishments for zero tolerance are not restorative. They are made to make everybody else comfortable, not the perpetrator. You put the criminals in jail to keep the, quote, law-abiding citizens safe and comfortable, and to, as is the purpose, deter further crime from happening. Even though these exact facilities are supposed to be rehabilitating in nature, that's not what they have developed into, unfortunately, and I will talk about the prison system next month. One thing I do want to bring up before next month is that 68% of all males in prison have never graduated because they had already been in the system, and therefore their right to education was removed far before they ever ended up in prison. Not only does a student's self-worth become negatively impacted with these out-of-school suspensions or exclusionary, punishments, but their drive to exceed is also negatively impacted, which again leads to anxiety, leads to depression. We're made to believe that happy people don't commit crimes, so why are we not doing our absolute fucking best to ensure the happiness and mental emotional capacity of children, and instead throwing them in front of juvenile judges who don't know the first thing about these kids? Oh, right. Money. Because the prison system is a $74 billion a year entity that the U.S. taxpayers are in part funding. School resource officers have a total federal spending budget of over $1 billion a year. Yet y'all are out here complaining about food stamps? I guarantee more of your money goes to oppression over restoration every single year, yet you listen to whatever face puppet or news media outlet you want to listen to that day or is in charge at the moment, and you will let them decide what you're going to be mad at or upset about. The answer is pretty fucking clear. To decrease the cost of SROs, prisons, and to increase the safety and education of children, we need to get rid of zero tolerance policies as they stand now. The as they stand now was the loud part. Much like the abolition of modern day police systems, we aren't saying to rid the world of these things. We're saying they need change. That the fundamentals that make up all of these things that are doing nothing but harm are so fucked and so far gone the opposite direction that the only answer at this point is to tear them down and start over. Next Thursday, I'll tell you the ways in which we can start over and the alternative approaches that have worked in some schools across the country that have decided to say goodbye to the ways of punitive and exclusionary punishments. After that, I think it's like personal vlog time for 2 Thursdays, so that should be fun. Sarcasm. I'll link every source I used for this video in the description, as well as E.J. Robinson's Spotify link that I think is going to play after this voiceover, so you can go listen to his music if you like the song that is playing. Until next week, have fun, keep tagging me in your categories, and I will talk to you hopefully next Thursday.
Yeah.
Today I woke up with blood on my hands. I guess last night, mama, I killed a man. Today I woke up with blood on my hands. I guess last night, mama, I killed a man. He was beating on me like I give a fuck. I ain't no killer, mama. I ain't no god, but if I get cornered, then I gives it up. I have no gun, I had no luck. All I had was my bare hands, they're covered in blood. I've been dreaming about suicide ever since. I can't get the images out of my head. I can't get it out of my head. Today I woke up with blood.